because Lok Sabha yesterday after the market they have passed the new banking amendment bill. So how will this new bill change life for the sector, for the industry and for an average Indian? Let's discuss that with Ashwin Parekh, National Leader of Global Financial Services with EY. Along with him, we've got Shyam Srinivasan, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Federal Bank, who joins us live from Kochi. And to get a view from an NBFC, we've got N. Shivaram, President with L&T Finance Holdings. Gentlemen, good morning to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Ashwin, let's first understand the broader tone. The broader tone is Reserve Bank of India will now have the option to award new licenses. But historically, every time I've seen that if new players, if they are allowed to operate in a sector, that means more competition, and existing players, they tend to suffer. Why do you think this new bill is actually constructive for the banking industry?
Well, to begin with, there is a substantial amount of, a gap in the market to the extent that 65% of the outsiders, financial outsiders, have to be included in the banking sector. Now, there is therefore a room for more banks on one side. There is also tremendous amount of capital required in the banking system. And because the government owns about 80% of the banking system at the moment, this capital, it's becoming difficult to find this capital. So on both the grounds, on the grounds of more penetration on one side, and on the grounds of inviting more capital, these new reforms have a significant impact, I must say.
Mr. Sivaram, I want to get you in. You're a strong contender for a banking license. How does the banking license, or rather the banking bill, fit into your strategy?
Thanks for telling that we are one of the strongest contenders for the banking license, and I think it reflects on the quality of business we have built and also the brand that L&T is. Definitely it gets the process started from what we have been, most of us in the country have been waiting for it to begin. Definitely, that's something which is already started off. And the important piece that I'm seeing as someone who will promote a bank, etc., they will see it as the voting rights of 26% does make it really comforting for those who will invest large amount of money in building a bank. So clearly, I think it's a good piece. I think these two are very, very important pieces of legislation which will push the process forward and make it a happy situation for participants in this process.
Mr. Sivaram, what we're trying to understand is what are the opportunities that you anticipate from getting converted into a bank from a now NBFC, and also what are going to be the challenges that you anticipate from getting from this kind of a conversion?
Well, we have set for ourselves a vision to build a comprehensive financial services business. So in that context, the bank is a natural evolution that one needs to look at as a way of building it. And we have seen bank as a way of growing our scope of services and consequently the business volumes and profitability. Because as a bank, you have the opportunity to provide end-to-end service to your client, which as an NBFC, you are always restricted by being only a loan provider, which is a big change for us, definitely. So it enables us to capture the opportunities which a customer can provide from end-to-end, starting from a current account and savings bank account to providing a long-term loan to him. The entire gamut is available. Basically you can use your channel more effectively. The customer has an opportunity to experience your service more frequently, consequently you become top of the mind recall when he has a opportunity or the requirement for a service. All of those do make a difference to the way you build the business. So for us it's an important opportunity, and from that perspective we will look at it in the context of the guidelines that will come out finally. As a challenge, yes, I think there is a need to change the mindset to become a bank from being an NBFC, because we are a uni-product entity in a sense that we provide only term loans. So we need to migrate to become a full service provider to a client. Second is building the organization, building the branch networks, maybe converting some of the branches that will be there into a bank branch, all of this, plus putting together the risk management system. And more importantly, with the growth, we'll end up adding a number of employees than what we have done in the past. So building a culture of both service and customer value will be extremely important for us to build. So these are the things that we'll have to really work on and build it as we.
Fair point. Shyam, this question is coming your way, and I guess by now you must have guessed my question. The restriction on the voting right has been removed for private banks. Can one safely assume that all private sector banks or old generation private banks now are ripe candidates for M&A?
I think this is speculative in its nature. What it has done is created a fair amount of enablers for the shareholders, which is good directionally. But whether it means a bank will be more sort of susceptible to M&A is really specific to the bank's current situation. So I would say the regulation is quite expansive and has far-reaching impact, and obviously gives the door open for stuff like what they are looking to do, which is bring in more banks. But beyond that, I think it's bank specific. But on a more larger note, I think this is a very progressive and more importantly timed right kind of initiative, which adds to the overall feel good that is emerging. So that's how I would characterize this.
Shyam, let's talk about Federal Bank in particular. What's the possibility of you actually merging with a bigger bank, or would you rather, merge yourself or rather acquire a smaller bank?
These are really in the domain of being speculative. I think at this point it's all very premature and can't quite visualize where this will play out. And we've maintained very strongly that our whole strategy is organic, and that's what we've been pursuing. If there are opportunities to acquire, we'll more than happily look at it, but our primary and singular focus right now is very strong organic growth, and we've demonstrated that the last 2 years by expanding our network by almost 35%. So really there's no tearing urgency to acquire, but if there's something solid comes up and this bill allows us now, we will certainly look at it, but that's not our priority just now.
Ashwin, who according to you could be a strong contender for bank license? Because a lot of names are doing the rounds: L&T Finance Holdings, IDFC, the Shriram Group, Mahindra Finance, Reliance Capital, as well as Shrey Finance.
Well, I mean, it remains to be seen what kind of guidelines the RBI now comes out with. They have the powers. The Parliament has given them the powers. Now, the regulator will come out with, he's come out with 2 discussion papers, and now we'll finalize the guidelines. So based on the guidelines, we will see how exactly it will work out, basically. Who are all these names are critical. These are big names. But at the same time, who does the regulator see, as a fit and proper candidate for the banking license is something that remains to be seen, to my mind.
Ashwin, but how soon do you think Reserve Bank of India will be able to award the first banking license? What is your understanding when it comes to their preparedness?
I suppose, there are policy issues. If, for example, we look at new set of stakeholders who may be now admitted into banking, for instance, for example, Business House, and that's something that the last discussion paper talks about, then a whole new set of regulations, including those on governance, will have to be really framed by the regulator. So I would say now that the regulator has the powers, there's no need for anyone to rush into, the candidates who are fit and proper can become banking companies eventually, can become banks in a year from now, 2 years from now. What is critical, however, is that the regulator has the powers, to my mind.
Mr. Sivaram, just want to ask you on one point. L&T Finance Holdings has about 5% stake in City Union Bank. Is there a possibility of increasing stake, or, say hypothetically, is there a possibility of a merger as well?
See, we took this stake at a point of time when the banking license as an opportunity was not in the horizon clearly, right? We looked at it as a way of participating in the entire value chain in financial services. So as a player who wants to build a large financial services play with a constraint in terms of what services it can offer, Definitely the investment in some of the banks did help us. As you would know that we also had a 5% stake in Federal Bank, but we exited it as we ended up requiring capital for other applications definitely. We have done well. Our belief in the financial services sector has really played out well in the way the bank's values have actually improved. So we are happy for that. I think it will be speculative to talk about that we will look at A bank or B bank, as I think Shyam also mentioned. It's a question of looking at the way the regulator will look at such kind of an opportunity, and also the way the alignment of overall long-term goals will have to be there. So I think I am not really wanting to speculate at this point of time whether organic or inorganic road will be appealing to RBI at the moment. And in any case, 5% is not something that gives us a leverage, and all of these definitely has a need to get RBI approval as a way of moving forward. I think as a player who could perhaps be looking at this sector seriously, it definitely an inorganic route does put us at a better position, because you can hit the ground running. But beyond that, I don't see any other way of looking at our investment in City Union Bank. It continues to be doing well, and I think we are fine with that kind of opportunity.
Right. So, Mr. Shivram, now that the guidelines of a new banking license will be soon in place, are you looking at exiting your 5% holding in City Union Bank?
Well, I think there is no compulsion at this point of time, and
but there's no necessity
also.
also.
They have come out with a very valuable.
No, there's no necessity.
I don't see it at the moment. Well, there are banks which have got stakes in other banks as well, so I don't see that to be a necessity. But that's we will continue to look at it based on our capital requirements in the longer term, and then decide to use this as an opportunity from time to time.
Can I safely assume that you are not open to pick up 5%, 10% strategic stakes in any other banks now? Because like you mentioned that earlier, the idea was to buy these banks indirectly. Now that the new amendment or new law will be in place, it makes little sense to pick up these strategic pieces.
See, there's a we are not a financial investor, right? Yes, at a point of time we saw this as an opportunity as a way of participating in the entire financial services space, right? Currently we are a very vibrant and growing NBFC. It has got its own requirements of capital. So I think we will look at any investment opportunity in the context of what does it have it for us in store in the longer term as a strategic investor, not as a financial investor. We are not investing in entities for the sake of profit over or value accretion in a shorter period of time. We would look at it as a business proposition in the longer term.
Fair point, Mr. Sivaram. But the RBI also gets the power to supersede banks' boards, and they can also look into the books of associate companies. What is your take on this?
Well, I think if you look at the supersession of the board as a philosophy, it's got to be interpreted in the context of what the experience of the country has been in certain situations, right? I don't think it is just directed at the corporates alone. I think today the corporates are big, and they have multiple needs for multiple banks to service them. So I don't see this any of the banks being exploited for selfish purposes by any corporate. So I think we need to see it in the context of the experience that the regulator has had in certain situations, plus also the need to protect and preserve both the public money and also the financial services as a segment. I think this supersession of the board or the inspection rights to look at the transactions between the associate companies and the bank, I think are all fulfilling this requirement to make sure that the governance is good and the practices are good, and the bank as an entity is well protected from any of the difficulties that a corporate could end up having over a period of time. So I don't see it as bad. I am sure that RBI has been one of the most responsible regulators in the whole world, not alone in the country. So I'm sure that these will all be used in exceptional and extreme situations rather than as a matter of routine.
Shyam, if I look at the history of M&A in the banking sector, I can count on my fingertips how many M&As have happened in last 10 years, and the M&As which have happened, they have been need based. So do you think it is safe for us to assume that yes, M&A is an important part of the Indian banking industry, but in reality it's a rare event?
Nikhil, I think if you go back in time, the primary reason the M&As were happening was an era where bank licenses, getting branches, had very cumbersome and onerous task. With more recent changes, that has materially changed. So really the expansion now has to be either you're getting a great portfolio or a new market where traditionally you've not been able to penetrate. So those options may be few and far between. So really the M&A in the banking space, unless somebody is doing really badly or is undercapitalized, that is getting smaller and smaller in its characteristics. So M&As of the past and M&As of the future will be quite different. The bill should not be just seen as an M&A enabler. The bill should be seen with much more wider perspective because it produces new governance mechanisms. It allows for the regulator to have a more direct oversight. So it produces a better corporate governance system. So I don't think the bill should be seen only as M&A. And secondly, M&A will be more dependent on the bank's strategy. And like I pointed out, ours remains largely organic. But if there are opportunities for expansion, certainly yes, in new markets or in new geographies where we don't have a core strength and something really comes up, yes, we could look at it.
All right, gentlemen, really appreciate your time and thank you for your insights. Markets, what do we have?